we have Mr. Freeman, Mr. Freeman. He is from the first floor of the Ball Artist Loft, activist, radio host, program curator, Black Love Festival, water. He has a lot of things. A great man, great accomplishments. And tonight, I'm not sure what he's going to share, but I know it's going to be something amazing. So let's give him a warm welcome, receive him, Brother Colonial. Y'all let him
Give up for our gracious hostess, Frankie, baby. Hey, we're gonna take a little walk. And brethren, if you gone for tonight, I would love if you could sit in for a moment. If you got it, your hands are very gifted. But you know, we'll see if this makes any sense to you. We're gonna do a little Rasta Man chant walk here. I'm running for Congress here in DC as a revolutionary artist, revolutionary candidate, and paying attention to what goes on in this world, because DC is not Cleveland. There are policies that are made in this city that affects people locally, nationally, and internationally. But they want to tell us to only focus on what's happening locally, and we need to think bigger than that. And whenever I talk about Palestine, they're always like, oh, well, you know, that's happening over there. We need to be focused on what's happening over here. That's the same thing they told Martin Luther King when he spoke out against the Vietnam War. And we need to pay attention to history because it does repeat itself. And so I did a piece called, it's not a piece, it's an essay I wrote from DC to Palestine, because you'd be surprised on how many similarities there actually are with the living conditions and the lack of self-determination of the Palestinians in Gaza and throughout the West Bank, and the lack of self-determination here in Washington, D.C. So I hope that y'all can bear with me as we go through this together. So let's take a long walk. What is the difference between DC and Palestine? Beyond the genocide, there's not much difference. It goes far beyond the mere fact that both Netanyahu and Trump have been indicted on multiple charges. It goes beyond the $15 million that DC sends to Israel annually. It speaks to reality that democracy doesn't apply to Palestinians in the occupied territories, much like it doesn't apply to DC residents, and certainly not to black and brown people here. Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, the same way America is the oldest democracy in the world. Ta-Nehisi Coast. Doing my research for this piece, Christopher Columbus, a theory, termed the Washington Monument Syndrome. When the National Park Service faces a budget cut, the agency doesn't threaten to reduce hours at a national site in the middle of America. Instead, they threaten to close the Washington Monument to affect all members of Congress in a highly visible way. In foreign policy, Israel is the Washington Monument. In both the House and Senate and across both party lines, the two wings of the same bird all flap together to support continued, unconditional aid to Israel. I seek to hold up a mirror of benign neglect that reflects some of the vast similarities with DC residents and those in Palestine. 20,000 black residents were displaced by gentrification in DC, with a population of 700,000 in the year 2000 to 2013, which is 5,000 more than New York City, the largest city in the country with a population of over 8 million during the same exact time period. Palestinians were being forcibly displaced even before the bellicose October 7th. Now over half of Palestinians in Gaza have been displaced. In DC, white households have 81 times the wealth of black households and 22 times the wealth of Latino households. The CIA estimates Israel's per capita GDP is 10 times that of Palestinians. Gaza has lost 39% of its hospitals due to indiscriminate bombing. DC has lost 30% of its hospitals even without Trouble Funk having to drop a single bomb. Israel is a colonial state, denying self-determination and self-governance to the Palestinian people. Anything less than full statehood means DC is still a colony and not equal citizens with the right to self-government. DC Black unemployment to white unemployment is 7-1, the worst in the nation. The Arab region has the highest unemployment in the world. 30% of the children in the nation's capital live in poverty. Mayor Bowser illegally cut funds to SNAP programs that provides food aid. Hunger is not going down in the district, it's continuing to rise. While the funding is there, just like hunger is threatening the entire population of Palestine, in violation of international law, while aid trucks are not being allowed in by Netanyahu. In fact, some of them have even been bombed and attacked. DC is the most dangerous city in America for a black woman of any social-economic background to give birth. Palestine has the dubious distinction of being the most dangerous place in the world for children. As this wasn't enough, Israel's security forces are training American cops, despite its history of abuses. Among the trainees was a DC police commander over the objections of a DC council member. I'm concerned that we are not doing enough to prevent the militarization of law enforcement in DC, former council member David Grosso wrote in the letter to then MPD Chief Peter Newsom. It just occurs to me that it isn't a good idea, whether it is in Israel or in any other place, to go and train with the military or national police. In essence, learning from people who are better at the violent approach to conflict resolution. We do not need more of that. We need more of a community-based approach, Grosso wrote. DC police cars even kept their red and blue roof lights flashing all the time after then Police Chief Charles Ramsey picked up the strategy to increase visibility during a ride-along with Israeli police officers in Jerusalem. DC has the highest concentration of police in the country, with 650 per 100,000. Israel maintains a force of over 1,500 per 100,000 in Palestine. In DC, we have jump outs. In Palestine, they have Shin Bet. In DC, we have riot police. In Palestine, they have Yazid. The Fraternal Order of Police have called Black Lives Matter protesters a pack of rabid animals. Israel called Palestinians inhuman animals. Israel's 50 years of occupation have transformed into a marketing brochure for successful policing, said Stephanie Fox, Jewish Voices for Peace Deputy Director. It is not just the police that gleans from lessons learned from apartheid Israel. Mayor Bowser led a 5-day mission with a delegation of more than 40 government and so-called community stakeholders. This resulted in the signing of an MOU between the DC Chamber and the Israel-America Chamber of Commerce. So don't expect any calls for a permanent ceasefire from the mayor, the DC City Council, and certainly not from the DC Chamber of Commerce anytime soon. Especially after the colors of the Israeli flag lit up the Wilson building at night. Even our beloved non-voting delegate, Eleanor Holmes Norton, in her colonial position, says she is not ready for a ceasefire. If DC had achieved statehood, it would have been the state with the highest violent crime rate in America in 2022. From that viewpoint, with over 20,000 people killed by apartheid Israel, it shouldn't be hard to say ceasefire loud enough for the people in the back. Bless all those who are surviving, striving against this genocide. From Palestine